So this is China's new unmanned long-range endurance drone. We finally got a picture of it. This may be a mock-up. This doesn't look operational to me, but let's read what the piece from the WarZone says, written by Mr. Tyler Rogaway. I did not know this until recently. Tyler Rogaway has a WarZone YouTube page. I highly recommend you subscribe to it. They have some good unlisted videos. Unlisted means that you won't see them anywhere else unless you subscribe to the page and manually look for them. And they're really well done. Okay, the WarZone says, an intriguing new high and far-flying Chinese drone design has been seen in a full scale on the ground in the upcoming air show. So this does look like, apparently it is a mock-up. But here's something that kind of got my attention is this looks like it has some kind of stealth design, but then these engines back here are anything but stealthy. So even though part of this looks stealthy, this right here, this is not a stealth design at all. It's like something you'd put on an A-10 Warthog or a commercial liner, these jet engines. If you wanted to be stealthy, these engines would be inside the body here, like it is on the B-2 and other stealth planes. Anyway, enough of my opinion. Let's talk about Tyler. He's an aviation expert. He knows what he's talking about. He writes, China's big international air show hasn't even officially kicked off yet, but we've already getting a peek into what's going to be displayed there. One of the new developing China's J-16 Delta electronic attack jet being seen with jamming pods for the first time. Now we are getting our first life-size view of China's Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation's Kai Hong's Rainbow 6. Interesting name. Better known as the CH-6. It's a long-endurance, twin-engine, multi-role drone. In the past, we have only seen models and low-fidelity renderings of this design. So he's saying that there's jamming pods on this thing. I don't see jamming pods in this picture. I do see weapons. That might be a pod. This is potentially a jamming pod right here. But that's definitely a weapon of some kind. Anyway, let's go back to the piece. Tyler writes, the CH-6 is considered to be a high-altitude, long-endurance, or HAL, unmanned system designed for intelligence gathering, support, and strike roles. It looks almost something like a drastically enlarged CH-5, but its rear configuration is very different from earlier designs. With its high T-tail setup and two engine installed on top of the tail section side by side, the drone's midsection long wings are also built swept, and the entire package sits atop tall landing gear. The aircraft also has a notable chine line-like edge that wraps around the ellipsoid fuselage. Okay, so he's calling this tail back here a T shape, which makes sense. And he mentions the engines are outside the fuselage instead of inside, like a stealth plane would normally have them. Drawings like this is what we've had in the past. So I wonder if can we see the wing tips? No, the wing tips are hidden from view. So it looks like they have some kind of stabilizer, whatever you call this here on the tip here. Oh, this is is that the CH-5 here? What's this one? This might be the precursor one. So this one, this looks like one of the American ones. What is this? Okay, let's just read from the piece. The aircraft jet speeds will be favorably impact transit times to patrol or target areas and maximize its endurance once there. Two engines would increase the reliability as well, which could be key to considering long distances involved with operating an aircraft like this and with less developed state Chinese jet engine technology. In fact, the most similar China unmanned aircraft we know of is the CH-6, probably the Cloud Shadow. I almost said Sea Shadow. With a single engine design. So this must be the Cloud Shadow here. It's remarkably similar to our drones here. But I guess it makes sense because it's a stealth aviation design. They're going to all have similar characteristics. Anyway, so Chinese fielding one of these now. That's kind of interesting. What do you guys think of that? This is called for those of you asking, this is the CH-6. Full-scale mock-up at the air show. I can't wait to see what other pictures he comes up with, because this is what, the 24th. Today's the 27th. This air show should be going on right now. So maybe there's more out there. It looks like a Learjet. It's a little bit small for a Learjet, but it does have that slope on the nose like a Learjet. They put the engines in that config on the A-10 and use the additional air flow over the tail for short takeoff. Yeah, I don't know. Like, this may not even honestly be real. This may not be the way that it's actually designed. This could be just for the air show itself. I would be more impressed if they had a picture of a functional drone. This one honestly looks like a toy to me. Yeah. Probably breaks after 2 uses. You be nice. The poor Chinese people working very hard making their drones, and you're just making fun of them. Hey, let's move over to India. India, everybody, has commissioned its first missile tracking ship. The INS, and I'm going to ruin this, but it's spelled Dhruv. So I'm going to say Dhruv. And if you're from India, you can correct me and that'll be okay. I'll be okay with that. India's first missile tracking and ocean surveillance ship, was officially commissioned on September 10th, so about almost 2 weeks ago now, at a state-owned Hindu Shipyard Limited, or HSL, in Visa, Captain. With the introduction of the INS Dhruv, India joins a private group of countries that have such specialized vessels, including the United States, United Kingdom, Russia, China, and France. Sea trials concluded in 2019 for the 15,000-ton ship, entered service last year without fanfare. Shepard understands the formal announcement of the vessel's commissioning was delayed due to an internal conflict between Defense Research Development Organization, or DRDO, and the Indian Navy, who would command the vessel. That's not the first time that's happened. DRDO and the Indian Navy often have come into conflict in the past, specifically with submarine design on one of their submarines, and I'm sure other things as well. Here's a better picture of it, by the way, I pulled up for you guys. So there you can see they have the big globes that are around the radar arrays. You can't actually see the array. Obviously, it's inside this dome. Looks like they have rather low frequency, large one there on the back, and then multiple, presumably medium frequency or high frequency ones here on the dome. Very long range radars, can track things in space, including satellites. It's very cool to see them bring this to sea. Back to the piece, written by, I should mention, navalpost.com, by the way. Is there an author here? Yeah, Dorian Arcus. Sorry, I didn't read Dorian's name first. So full credit to Dorian and the navalpost.com for this piece. Dorian writes, the INS Dhruv is expected to provide early warning of attacks of ballistic missiles launched from Pakistan and China. It has a length of 175 meters, a beam of 22 meters. So decent sized ship. It draws 6 meters, about 18 or so feet. Top speed of 21 knots. Not bad, not bad. It also, it's powered by 2 imported combined diesel or code DAD configuration engines, combined output of 9,000 kilowatts. So that's like, is that 9 megawatts? And 1,200 kilowatts for the auxiliary diesels. Okay. The vessel weighs 10,000 tons and is equipped with long-range radars, dome-shaped track antennas, and advanced electronics. Furthermore, it's outfitted with the capability of mapping ocean beds. Now, that's a key capability because ocean bed mapping could also be used for recovery if they have deep submergence vehicle to go along with it. So you could quickly increase the capability of this ship if they wanted to. It has active scanned array radar, or AESA, developed by Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, and is mounted on the ship, can scan and monitor spy satellites watching over India as well. So like I said, these radars can reach all the way up into space and track the satellites as well as ballistic missiles. And this is a key capability for them because they do have neighbors that they don't necessarily get along with, like Pakistan and China, that have ballistic missile capability. So it is important that they have a ship like this. Another use for this ship is whenever they test launch their own ballistic missiles, they can track them and see, real time, what is the performance of the ballistic missile. Unlike what North Korea does, where they just launch the ballistic missile and hope for the best. They don't necessarily track it. With this vessel, India can track those missiles. So multifunction, really great ship to have. Thank you to the viewer who sent me this story. I believe his name was Mohammed. Full credit to him. Let's see what you guys say. What do you think about this? Does India need a ship like this? Is this a waste of money? Or is this important that they're now part of the small club that has this capability? Like, United States, France, UK, Russia has a ship like this. They have multiple ships like this. Grind says, I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Talking about these big balls right here. Yeah, these are just covers, protective covers for the radar itself. All right. Last story of the day is the United States military eyes prototype mobile nuclear reactor in Idaho. This is a great idea if they do it properly. The idea that you can have a mobile nuclear reactor providing terawatts of power, electricity to regions, around the country. Say after a natural disaster, if a power plant is taken out by a tsunami or an earthquake similar to Fukushima, it doesn't have to be a nuclear power plant, but if you cannot generate power for the grid, a la Texas. Remember Texas over the summer or spring, they had to do brownouts because they simply didn't have enough power for everybody running their AC this year because it was so hot. Well, they could have added power to the power grid for the state of Texas with an idea like this. And this is not the first time this has been tried. But I digress. Let's read from the piece first from military.com. Credit to Keith Ridler, who wrote this. He says, Boise, Idaho, the U.S. Department of Defense is asking input on its plan to build an advanced mobile nuclear microreactor prototype at the Idaho National Laboratory in eastern Idaho. The department began a 45-day comment period on Friday with the release of the draft environmental impact study evaluating alternatives for building and operating a microreactor that produces 1 to 5 megawatts of power. The Department of Energy needs are expected to increase, it said. Okay, quoting from the piece, this is a Department of Defense official says, a safe, small, transportable nuclear reactor would address the growing demand with a resilient carbon-free energy source that would not add to the DoD's fuel needs, while supporting mission-critical operations in remote and austere environments. The draft environmental impact study cites President Joe Biden's January 27th executive order prioritizing climate change considerations in national security as other reasons for pursuing microreactors. The draft document said alternative energy sources such as wind, solar were problematic because they were limited by location, weather, and available land area, would require redundant power supplies. The department said that it could use 30 terawatt hours of electricity per year and more than 10 million gallons of fuel per day. That would save more than 10 million gallons of fuel. Okay, I got you. Powering bases using diesel generators strains the operations and plannings, the department said, and needs to be expected to grow. Right. So like on military bases, a lot of military bases, we produce our own power. There'll be literally a power plant on the military base that is connected to the grid outside the base as well. But the base itself has its own power plant. And those are usually diesel generators, very dirty compared to today's standards, right? Well, how about we power each naval base with a relatively small micro reactor that has enough power for the base and then some, feeding it out into the national grid as well. I think this is a good idea. For the bases, it doesn't need to be portable, but having portable capability, I think, is really important for disasters. Let's say a region has lost power. Like I said, Texas is a great recent example of this, where they just needed more electricity for the grid. And so they could have connected one of these and provided those people with power this summer. Anyway, I might be in the minority on that. I know nuclear energy for me, I believe, is very safe because I lived within 100 feet of one of these things on a submarine for decades. And so, I turned out fine. Maybe having more of these supply power to the United States is a good idea. Let's start with military bases and maybe grow from there. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. Hoverfly says 2 or 3 feet of dirt around it will keep you from getting toasted. Well, I'm sure it's going to have its own shielding and all that. Yeah. Testing a mobile nuke power plant would be best tested in Kodiak. Isn't Kodiak like a national park or something? I don't know. See, 5 gas meter says, come on, we can't let the Marines run a nuclear reactor. Yeah, I don't know if I'd let the Marines run it. This one is, I thought it said the Army. I don't know. I know that the Navy has a nuclear power test facility up in Idaho. Maybe it's the Navy's one. I don't know. Let's see. Media says, I'm a little concerned that the number of broken arrow incidents, which may be simpler setups for the reactor, it's the mobility that's the problem. Oh, you think somebody would run away with it? I mean, I suppose it is mobile, but I don't think it's that mobile. It's not like we couldn't just, find it again. I really hope that broken arrow is not an issue. Kodiak is a large U.S. Coast Guard base with a large contingent of still. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay, Dresler says, use the Marine as a proper test If we can run it, anyone can. Okay, that's true. Yeah, I mean, if Homer Simpson can run a nuclear power plant safely, I think the Marine Corps can too. Anyway, I think the idea of beginning with military bases, replacing our old, dirty, diesel-generated, power plants that we have in Groton, Connecticut. I think the one in Groton, Connecticut might actually be decommissioned because that power plant is so old. I honestly don't even know if it works anymore. If anyone's on Groton, let me know if they still use that power plant, because it may not. It's last time I saw it, the thing looked like it was about to fall apart. But imagine taking and just removing all that metal, that big ass building that's so dirty whenever it runs, with a relatively small, looks like a shack you could stick on the back of a semi truck, create enough power for you and the surrounding cities. Yeah. Safely, cleanly, no emissions. Yeah. No. The only thing a reactor creates is more steam, in the big cooling towers that you see around nuclear power plants. That's steam coming out of the top of that, moisture, and nothing else. Simmer says, outside military, there are already studies for modular microreactors that could set up a conventional power plant and use its generators. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm glad to see that people are taking this idea into the civilian realm already, because think of the money you could save. It's a big upfront cost building a nuclear power plant, but then let's say you run that and generate nuclear power for 30 years. The return on investment is amazing. Civilian power companies should be all over this idea. And for them, it doesn't need to be mobile, which makes it more, easier to do, I think, as a layman. I don't know. All right. That's really all the stories we have for today. So thanks for watching the Naval News. We're going to take a break and be right back with more Cold Waters. See you guys in a minute.